30岁没有结婚，是男生着急还是女生着急？
Is it the man or the woman who feels anxious about not being married by the age of 30? When asking this question, I basically already know the answer. In the eyes of many, a woman who is not married by the age of 30 is generally considered a leftover woman, with very few opportunities left. However, society's tolerance for men can be summed up in one sentence: if you have money and ability, why worry about finding a partner? I am 28 years old this year and not married yet. Most of my peers have already had their second child, some of whom are old enough to buy soy sauce. So I often hear people around me ask, "You are almost 30 years old and still not married, aren't you anxious?" To be honest, I am not anxious, because at this age, I have just become a bit more mature. I know my own conditions well. I do not have the ability to raise a child and take care of a family, because I grew up in a laissez-faire manner and understand the hardships involved. I really like a quote from the internet: if a child's birth is only to inherit one's toil, anxiety, and poverty, then not having a child is also a kind of kindness. So I don't think I will rush to get married just because I reach a certain age. Instead of hastily entering marriage, I now want to improve myself. I now insist on reading and working out, maintaining good mental and physical health, keeping myself in a good mood every day, striving to make myself better, and then welcoming a better partner in the future.
Who do you think is more anxious, leftover men or leftover women?
Well, if we're talking about being anxious, I think men might be more anxious.
Why do you say that?
Because I believe that if a woman chooses to remain single, she must have higher standards for choosing a partner. In this case, she wouldn't be in a hurry to find someone just to share her life with. As a woman, I don't want to come home every day and have to do the laundry, cook, and clean.
那大年是男和大年是女的哪个更着急结婚呢？
Which is more anxious about getting married, older single men or older single women? Actually, older single women are more anxious. Because once a woman is over 30 and still not married, she faces immense pressure from all sides of society. There was a 35-year-old woman who came to me, hoping I could help her find a partner, saying she must get married before the new year. I asked her why she was in such a hurry, and she said the pressure was too great. She came from a rural area with a poor family background. In the past, when people in the village saw her parents, they would say, "Wow, your daughter is so smart, with such a high degree. You can enjoy a good life in the future." Hearing these words, her mother felt very proud. After all, in that era, she was the only one in her village with a master's degree. She found a good job in Shenzhen with her high degree, made money, and dressed herself beautifully. Her childhood friends, who didn't study much and lacked work skills, got married early. Every time she went home for the new year, those girls would say they envied her. At that time, matchmakers in the village introduced her to potential partners, but she didn't like any of them because many had low education levels and little in common with her. When her parents urged her, she would say, "Let it be." She believed that as a female master's degree holder, she could find someone whenever she wanted. However, a few years passed. At 32, occasionally, someone would still introduce her to potential partners, but they were either older or had poor conditions. Some even introduced her to divorced men. She felt repulsed at the mention of blind dates and refused to go, focusing solely on her career. She believed that as long as she was excellent enough, she would meet someone equally excellent in the future. But after many years, her career didn't progress, and her love life remained stagnant. Looking back at those who married early, their families were now happy, and after years of hard work, they had finally bought a car and a house. Looking at herself, after working for so many years, her salary was still just over 10,000 yuan a month. After rent, utilities, transportation, and food expenses, there was not much left. Her parents had once thought that after graduation, she could provide them with a good life, but the reality was that she was still an ordinary person with no significant earning power and couldn't change her family's fate. She has now resigned herself to her fate and just wants to live a good life, finding an ordinary person to be with. However, at her current age, finding a partner through blind dates is indeed awkward, and her criteria for choosing a partner can only keep lowering. Such stories have become numbing because most older single women have similar experiences. When they were young, they thought they would make a lot of money in the future, but they were not proactive in finding a partner. They always believed that fate would favor them one day and kept waiting, remaining single for more than 10 years, and finally having to accept those they once looked down on. So it's essential to find a partner early. In China, there is a significant disparity between the marriage markets in rural and urban areas. There are over 18 million rural men still worrying about the dowry, while the number of single women in cities has surpassed 23 million. This situation is akin to the ancient story where a mortal man remains single while heavenly fairies do not descend, making the fairy tale match hard to achieve. So, what is the cause behind this phenomenon? In the past, education opportunities were mainly available to boys in families. Girls, due to traditional views and lack of educational opportunities, often had to depend on men and married young, resulting in very few single women. Additionally, early policies restricted rural people from moving to cities, leading to a very narrow marriage market where rural women like Xiao Fang would either marry a man from the same village like a Qiong or from a neighboring village like Xiao Gang, rarely venturing beyond their rural areas. However, since the implementation of the one-child policy in 1982, women's educational opportunities have greatly improved. Especially in higher education institutions, the proportion of female undergraduates and postgraduates has been consistently higher than that of males. Women in cities, using their professional skills and knowledge, are able to earn a living on par with men. With the advancement of urbanization, even women from rural areas with minimal education can now work in factories, deliver food, or run businesses, making earning opportunities diverse and reducing their reliance on men, thus increasing the number of single women in cities. In the marriage market, although some women might accept men who are less capable than themselves, most women prefer to choose partners who are more capable than they are. If we categorize people into 4 levels, A being the best and D being the worst, the marriage market often sees A men marrying D women, D men marrying C women, and C men marrying D women. As a result, A-level women find it hard to find suitable partners, and D-level men also struggle to find matches. This leads to an increasing number of single men in rural areas and single women in cities.
Older men are hardly normal. At the matchmaking event, an aunt approached me and said her daughter had been waiting here for half a day. The men who greeted her were either poor or short. Are all the men without partners now abnormal? I asked the aunt, "How old is your daughter?" She said she is 31 years old. What's the matter? I helplessly told the aunt, "The reason you think there are few normal men here is because normal men do not go on blind dates with older single women."
你稍微要求低一点嘞，交了够。我要求抬高呀，我要求。我对男生要求身高比我1.68米以上都行啊。我硕士毕业，我大专以上我都行。那男方我没有要求他非得有车有房。人家有车有房，不要求你有车有房，只要1.68米，要求男方需要1米。80万这个要求我非得要80万，我只是说在不说没问题。哎，这个都是跟我这么子哎。
年入100万，能给得起80万彩礼的人。
Many people ask me why some men who have cars, houses, savings, and an annual income of 1 million yuan, and can offer a betrothal gift of 800,000 yuan, do not choose 18-year-old girls, but choose a leftover woman like me who is 38 years old. First of all, what do you think an 18-year-old girl can do? She can't even take care of herself. Can she support a man's career? She would only lower a man's emotional value, turning him into a simp. But the value I can bring is far beyond these. Firstly, I am 168 centimeters tall, so the children I have with this man will definitely not be short. Secondly, I have a master's degree, so there will be no problem with the child's education, saving a lot on tutoring fees. Thirdly, I have a car and a house. If this man goes bankrupt, I can still support him. Fourthly, I currently work in a state-owned enterprise with a good annual salary. Can an 18-year-old girl achieve all these? She can't even support herself, let alone support a man. As for the 800,000 yuan betrothal gift I require, it is meant as a fertility fund for after we get married. I've said that I would return the 800,000 yuan, making it a total of 1,600,000 yuan, which we will deposit in a bank account with a password known to both of us. We will use it to raise our children in the future. Some people ask why a man with an annual income of 1 million yuan would go bankrupt. But life is unpredictable, and everyone faces setbacks. Who can guarantee a smooth life? We are all ordinary people. Therefore, I believe that a man marrying me is truly fortunate. Firstly, I can provide value in terms of height. Secondly, I can provide emotional value. Thirdly, I can help with the child's education. Fourthly, if he goes bankrupt, I can support him and help him make a comeback. Now, I ask you, can an 18-year-old girl do all these? No, she can't. They haven't even grown up and lack the correct values. They only find dating, flowers, and movies romantic and enjoyable, which I've experienced too much of. I can buy flowers for myself and go to movies on my own. What I want is a man with ambition. We want to live a life, not those so-called romantic but meaningless things. So, if you marry me, you won't lose out. Although I am a bit older, I have no other major flaws. Besides, I am 38 years old and can still have children. I have been to the hospital for a checkup, and everything is perfectly fine. Nowadays, there are numerous criticisms against us older single women on the internet. People often say that older single women have drunk too much toxic chicken soup, which has poisoned their thinking, resulting in various strange people and bizarre thoughts and views on marriage and love, which are repulsive and disgusting. It cannot be denied that some older single women's behaviors and thoughts are indeed surprising. However, in reality, the number of older single men is several times that of older single women, and their thoughts are even more peculiar and weird. They treat marriage with a cynical attitude and even harbor a strong hatred towards women, believing that there are no good women nowadays, only materialistic gold diggers without genuine feelings, who only deceive men's emotions. Therefore, they are extremely biased and stubbornly believe that all women are bad women who cheat men out of their money. They would rather not date or marry than be a bootlicker, still maintaining a man's attitude, which is laughable. These older single men often fantasize about meeting a silly girl who doesn't care about their money and is willing to dedicate herself. But in reality, they generally have the following characteristics. First, they are picky and perfectionists, with very harsh requirements for their partners. Second, they have social barriers due to introversion and shyness, resulting in little contact with the opposite sex. Third, they are workaholics, sacrificing personal life for their careers, leading to a lack of time and energy to seek romantic opportunities. Fourth, they lack the awareness and actions to care for others. Fifth, they are ugly, dress poorly, are unkempt, and have a sour smell. Sixth, they are lazy, blindly arrogant, or excessively inferior. Seventh, they are unsuccessful, have low education levels, no goals or plans, and can't make money. These characteristics make it difficult for older single men to find partners. Even in the dating stage, there are many problems, such as being stingy, valuing money, being chauvinistic, self-righteous, not knowing how to interact with girls, having extreme personalities, unstable emotions, and too many bad habits. Being unsuccessful, giving up on themselves, being rigid, having psychological issues, boasting, having no ambition or career goals, and lacking manners and upbringing. You older single men, after passing the marriageable age, have become older single men, and you comfort yourselves by thinking there are many men like you, so you don't worry. What's even stranger is that some of you believe that married men are not happy, with high divorce rates and frequent quarrels, thinking that being alone is better. In fact, if you open your eyes and look at the normal families and men with normal personalities around you, how many of them are left alone? This is the reality. How can you still have the nerve to comfort yourselves? No wonder you can't find a wife for a lifetime.
Are you out of your mind? I'm telling you, unless a girl has a mental problem, she would never choose you. You earn 4,000 yuan a month, and you demand that the woman earns 8,000 yuan a month, and also has a house and a car. No one has ever made such demands in thousands of years, so why do you think you can make such demands on us women?
No one has demanded it, but I am, starting today, I have demands on women. Why can women with an income of 2 or 3,000 yuan demand that men earn 10 or 20,000 yuan a month? If I earn 4,000 yuan and want to find someone who earns 8,000 yuan, why can't I? Is it because women can have children? Without a man, they can't have children either. Besides, look at my requirements. It clearly states here that if I have a child, the child will take the mother's surname, continuing her family line.
Can you have children? Isn't it women who give birth?
I said it's the woman who gives birth. After having a child, it will be given to her. And it also says here that we can choose not to have children. Not having children is prioritized. And whether to have children or not is up to the woman. If she wants a child, I will cooperate.
But we women don't want children, and I earn more than you. What use are you to me?
So, if a man earns more than you and doesn't want children, what use are women to him?
Why don't we see older single men feeling anxious in life? Many older single men seem to lie flat and be happy, without any hurry. However, once a woman becomes an older single woman, she often feels very anxious. Generally speaking, older single men are left single mostly due to economic constraints. But as women age, they develop wrinkles, their physical strength declines, and after 35 years old, they have to undergo a series of tests to have children. On the other hand, men really don't have this age and fertility anxiety. The only thing they care about is their economic condition, which can improve over time. For example, a man might be poor when he is young, but he is not anxious. He works during the day, plays games, and goes fishing on weekends. This relaxed lifestyle can continue until he is 40 years old, and then, gradually, he acquires a house, a car, and savings. At this point, he can still find a girl in her early 20s. This situation doesn't affect older single men much, which might seem harsh, but it's reality.